What's going on, everyone? Ron here in the TST garage, and today we are installing the all-new TST case savers on your Yamaha motorcycle. These case savers also fit the previous generation R3 2015 and 2018, as well as the all-new 2020 MT-03. Now this is a three-piece system. On the left side, you're gonna have one piece, and then on the right side, it's a two-piece system. There's an adjoining bracket that will make this complete. Now, these are made out of CNC machine billet aluminum. They are anodized black for a nice, durable, long-lasting finish, and they're gonna complement and look great on your bike. There's some nice etchings and engravings on them that really complement the designs of these R3s. We do include corrosion-resistant hardware with these case savers, so we'll replace that OEM hardware, give you some new sets to work with, and make the installation very, very simple and very easy. Now, these case savers were derived from years of race experience and have been proven and tested out on the track to provide maximum protection to critical components on your bike. Now, the case saver is not an end-all be-all crash protection piece. It works best when paired with multiple forms of crash protection, whether it's bar ends, front axle sliders, frame sliders, or even rear spools. It will help divert all of those crash forces, propagate them throughout the body of the bike, and ultimately save you a lot of money when it comes to fixing your bike after that crash. In addition to the crash protection parts I just listed, we carry many other parts for the Yamaha R3 and MT-03, such as the ever-popular integrated taillight, our fender eliminator. We also carry turn signals and even levers. Be sure to check those parts out on tstindustries.com. Now, enough about these case savers. Let's go ahead and join Bart as he walks you through the installation.
All right, you guys, I've devised a very easy to follow method for the installation of this product. We're gonna begin with the clutch side components. First thing we're gonna do is identify all the parts, correlate them to the location where they go, and then subsequently we're gonna jump on over to the bike and start taking off some parts. Now, I like to do things in the least invasive way, which means the removal of big, cumbersome panels is unnecessary. So that's how we're gonna do this particular installation. You can actually remove all these components and gain better access in there, but in the interest of saving some time and having to remove and then subsequently replace too many components, we're just gonna do it in this version, and hopefully you can follow along. So let's get started. First, this sheet is available on our website. You can download it. If you're gonna print it out, it helps if you set the ratio to 1:1 scale. Otherwise, the identification of some of these components may not be as easy, because then the sizes on the paper will be out of scale with the actual models. So I've printed this out 1:1, and this enables me to line up the components that came in my kit exactly to the components drawn in here. And then this lets me identify where all these things go. Now, we've designed these parts, so I know exactly where they go. I don't need this sheet, but if you feel so inclined, you can download it and use it. First thing I'm gonna do is combine the two parts together. They need to be screwed together using the shortest screws. Carefully align the threads and get the threads started. Then, using a 5mm Allen key, I'm gonna bottom these out. Once you hit bottom, do not tighten it anymore. We're actually gonna loosen up just a little bit. We want a little bit of play here so that we can align all the other mounts easily and torque those down, and these two get torqued at the very end. Now, we have the two shorter spacers, two shorter screws. Those go in these locations, like so. Obviously, this assembly here will not stay together very easily as we move it over to the bike. I just want to show you where stuff goes. We have the longest components, longest fasteners here, and this is what the assembly looks like when it goes on the bike. Now let's grab these components, get on over to the bike, take off just a few parts out of here, and then we'll be able to show you how to get this on the bike. Okay, in this step, I'm gonna be using a 4mm Allen to remove several fasteners from these panels here, down at the bottom. This one has a larger head. You need to remember where they go. Up here, slightly smaller head, and up a little bit higher towards the back same screw as we just pulled out from the forward location. Okay, now this panel does have to come out. So first thing I like to do, up here under the seat, there's a little lip that fits under there. I like to get that out. If you pry away on the bottom of this panel, it releases that lip. And now we can go up the line and remove all the other clips. Now, this panel actually has a lot of these slide clips and then also some friction fasteners right under this area. If you can make out a tab that comes from the tank cover down, there is a friction fastener that has a grommet in it. I like to put my hand underneath and push towards the center plane of the bike on this component while I pry this straight outward. And that releases this friction fastener, and then we just go up the line and get the rest of the tabs out. This is that friction fastener I was describing that goes into this grommet. Once that releases, a lot of these guys just pop right out. Now on the way back in, I want to urge you to have a lot of patience with this. You want to align everything perfectly before you start pushing it in. If you do not, you can bend some of these thinner tabs out of the way and they will strain and they will never go back into position. So you do want to be careful about that. There's one more fastener here that we need to take out. This requires a 10mm socket or maybe open-ended wrench or socket wrench. All right. Once all these fasteners come out, this fairing's pretty free. There is another friction fastener, just like the one up here, but right here. So I'm gonna pop that out, straight perpendicular to the center plane of the bike. Now the last thing we wanna do to have enough flex in this panel, there are two fasteners here and here from within the scoop area. We're gonna use a Phillips screwdriver to take those out. So the two fasteners I just mentioned are this one and this one from within here on this side. Like I said, Phillips screwdriver takes them out. They are a very coarse thread, so they come out quick. Once those two are out, this basically just snaps apart easily, and we have enough flex to get in there now and perform the rest of the process. For this next step, I've switched over to an 8mm socket. I'm gonna pull this fastener out first. There is a cable guide here right under the head of this fastener. So if it gets loose on you, make sure it stays in there. You can actually ditch it. There's a bottom one here, there's a top one here. Cable's not going anywhere. Move up the line and remove the other fasteners that need to come out. Okay, now we have all the fasteners that need to come out already out of the bike. The installation of these parts will require first the seating of the rearmost fastener, and then we will move up the line towards the front. Using a 5mm Allen for this purpose, I will engage the threads, but leave adjustability in the system. And then as we go up the line, I'm going to put the screw through the outside, the spacer under our new machine parts, in between that and the engine case, and then engage that thread by hand. Repeat for the forwardmost hole here. There it is, a tight space in there. So I'm going to use a ratchet type 5mm Allen by hand to get that bottomed out. I'm going to bottom out all of these screws by hand. Also the two screws that hold the case to our TST intermediate bracket. And now I'm going to grab a torque wrench and I'm going to set it to 7.2 foot-pounds. Mine is actually in inch-pounds, so that's 86.5, or for you guys across the pond, 10 Newton meters. And that's pretty much it. Now I'm gonna reassemble everything in the reverse order of disassembly, starting with my push fastener in here, then this fastener. And go ahead and put this lower fastener in already. I'm gonna move up forward to those two Phillips head screws that go from within the scoop area. Now, we'll be working on this panel. And like I said in the disassembly step, there's a series of interlocking features here that need to be aligned carefully. Make sure you use a lot of caution and patience when you do that. Unfortunately, you can't see them once you start assembling certain parts. So I've tried this process starting at the top, starting at the bottom, and starting in the front. And what's worked the best for me on this particular item is to start with this line first. That maintains my ability to see the components coming together as I push them together. And I'm able to get the entire front area and bottom area together, then get the friction fastener in. This guy is resisting a little bit, so I'm gonna pinch it together. That tab that goes in there with the grommet and the outer panel. And now I can fit this aft section together, still being careful not to strain the components that are here that fit together. And now we're ready for the fasteners. Boom. Simple, beautiful. Now the bike's protected on this side. Let's flip it around. I'll show you how to do the stator. Here on the stator side, the job of identifying components is vastly easier. We obviously have the case guard. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the same exact spacers. We have 4 socket cap screws and 1 dissimilar screw with a button head. I'm going to reserve 1 spacer and the dissimilar screw for the last step. And these guys, these fasteners and these spacers will attach this to the motor. Push that off to the side for a little bit. Let's focus on removing some components here. Same as the other side. First, we'll start with a 4mm head screw here. I'm going to remove this screw. This will actually not be reused. This button head screw with the spacer goes in here at the end. I will show you why. Let's go up here. We'll remove this fastener as well as the rear upper fastener here. And now, same as we did on the other side of the bike, we'll remove this panel. Once that panel is off, we have access to this 10mm fastener. On the right side of the bike, it was a screw. On this side, it happens to be a nut that comes off with a washer. Keep those handy, they will be replaced. Now, this is loose here. It also has a friction fastener here that we need to pry out. And now the 2 remaining fasteners are those 2 Phillips head, coarse thread fasteners here. Now everything's loose and I'm able to flex this away. Once again, I'm going to try to shelf this up on the shifter pedal. I'm going to switch over to an 8mm tool and we are going to remove 1, 2, 3, and 4 of the fasteners here. I'm going to crack them loose. Make use of my shelf here. I'll grab my case guard and put the bottom screw through with a spacer. Find this position to be the easiest, to be the first. I'm going to engage that thread in there. And then I'm going to move on to the rear position. Screw and spacer from underneath. And once again, we are using a 5mm Allen on these fasteners here. Now I'm just moving up the line. And then the top forward position. Fastener through the outside, spacer in between. Really, really simple. I'm going to bottom these guys out, but not tighten them just yet. I'm going to switch over to my torque wrench, set to that same 7.2 foot-pound value. All right, and that's pretty much it for the mounting of the actual case guard to the motor. Now we have this little issue of contact here. Now on a race bike, it's not an issue at all because most guys will actually carve out a little bit more access here in their race fairings, and that's a thing that you typically do while prepping a race bike. You make access for all the things that you've put on that are race specific, and that's just how it works. So that is what this button head screw is for with that spacer. I'm going to put the spacer underneath this area here and put this extra screw through. And this one, we decided to go with a 4mm Allen head because the OEM screws in all these outer areas are 4mm. So we wanted to keep with the scheme of the fastener heads. Now you still have a tiny little bit of contact here, but it doesn't put as much pressure on this fairing from within. So we deemed that acceptable. Now we're just gonna go up the line and replace all the other fasteners that we've taken out. All right, if you haven't done so yet, make sure you align the protruding stud through this grommet, and then also make sure that the friction fastener that was popped out here is popped back in. We're going to put the washer over the stud and that 10mm nut. Engage the threads by hand, and then using a 10mm socket, I'm going to turn that in and tighten it. Now I'm going to bring back the black panel here, and once again I'm going to start with the bottom. Once all those clips are engaged, now we just slam these last two fasteners in here. I'm going to move up front to the scoop area and replace those Phillips head fasteners. And that's it, we're good to go.
All right, there we go. Very quick, simple, painless install on your Yamaha motorcycle. We now have essential crash protection. You're ready to hit the street, to hit the track. If you like these parts or any other parts you saw were mentioned in this video, check out tstindustries.com where we do carry those parts for your bike as well as any other bikes you may have. If you found this video helpful, hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and as always, ride safe.